All right, yesterday we did a little bit of this equation of a line thing. We did probably about half of it, I guess. What was the form, the one form that we first learned yesterday? Do you remember? We said we're going to have three forms. We did one of them yesterday. Then I kind of hinted what we were going to do today. So it's AX, but what is the name of it, Kalia? It's a standard form. That's right. Okay, so let's write that down just as a little review. So, standard form. All right, so what was that? AX plus what? BY equals C. Now, we kind of use this because we can use this. I mean, it's a practical thing to use, but we use it for the x and y intercepts. Remember we talked about x and y intercepts? Let's go over that very briefly. So if I had something like this, then if I had a line that went like this, all right, it's got 2 points that are really, really important. It's got this point right here, which is the what? Which intercept is this one? It's the y-intercept because it goes through the what? The y-axis. Good. And it's got another intercept. What's the other intercept? The x right there because it goes through the what? The x-axis right at that point. Okay? Remember, the y-intercept is always, what does it always start with? 0. Right. To get to that point, you go 0, whatever. I don't know. Let's just make up something. Let's say it's 0, 3. All right? And what would this point right here be? This would be like negative whatever. Let's say it's negative 4. Negative 4 what, though? 0. Because you don't go up at all. Everybody see that? So, to find the... Let's do the x first. To find the x-intercept, the y will always be equal to what? 0. To find the y-intercept, what? The x is always going to be what? 0. Everybody with me on that? That was yesterday. All right, go back and watch it, and you'll see. No, unfortunately, Kay was absent yesterday, and she said she came up to me this morning. She's probably maybe the only one all year that was absent and actually looked for the video. And this was like the one time. I've been really, really good about putting the videos up online, and I just didn't do it yesterday. Usually I do it last period. I had that signing yesterday, and then that just messed everything up for me. I just forgot to do it. So, sorry, Cabring. But anyway, it's online now. Okay, I put it up this morning. So if you need to go back and look at the first part, it's on there now. All right? Yes. Thought you had a math question. Well, what do you need to do? I don't have to spell it out for you. Just come up to me with your book, signed or filled out, and I'll sign it. All right, so that's what we did yesterday. I'm not going to get into that any more details, but you can look at the video from yesterday if you didn't see it. All right, so what did we say we're going to do today? Slope-intercept form. So this is the second form. So let's write that down. It's the slope-intercept form. There's a third one. We're not going to do the third one in this lesson. We'll wait for another, I think in another chapter we do the other one. But we'll just do these two today. All right, and what's it look like? We had the ax plus by equals c on the other one. What's this one? Y equals, yep, mx plus b. That's very, very familiar. We talked about that yesterday. It's like one of the most famous things in math, okay? Well, at least in high school math anyway. If you ask anybody that paid any attention at all in their math classes, you ask them about high school math, and you say y equals, almost everybody, if they paid any attention, would probably say equals mx plus b. It's very, very familiar. Just kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit. But what does this stuff mean? Well, we talked about this yesterday again. We kind of hinted at what we were going to do today, but let's talk about it again. So that m, we already know what that m is. We've done a lot with the m. What does the m stand for? It's the slope. Okay, it's the rise over the run, correct? Right? It's how steep the line is. So if I have an equation written like this, I can just look to see where that m is. It's not going to be an m. It's going to be a number, right? I can just look right there, and I can tell you what the slope is, right? If it's written in slope-intercept form. We got one more thing about this that we know, and that's the b. The b is the what? It's the y-intercept. And a lot of people say, well, why do they use B? That's weird. It's weird they use B. It seems like at least use an A or something. Why B? Well, because a lot of times, some people would write it like this. A, comma, B. A would be the what intercept, do you think? It's the x-intercept, and then B is the what? Is the y-intercept. Everybody got that? All right, that's why they use the A and the B. Or that's why they use the B right here, because the A kind of represents the x-intercept. We don't really have an equation of a line that uses A for the x-intercept, all right? But if we did, that's probably what it would be, all right? But we use the B. The B is the y-intercept, where it crosses where? The what? The y-axis. So this would be our B. So if I had an equation like this would be the B. Everybody got it? So we need to know two things when you do slope-intercept form, and that would be that right there. So now what we're going to do is this. I'm going to take that same equation I used yesterday for the standard form. I'm going to write it down again, but what we're going to do is we're going to graph it not by x and y intercepts, but we're going to graph it using this thing, the slope-intercept form. Okay? So I'm going to get the same exact graph as I got yesterday, but I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to arrive there just a little differently, and I'm going to use the slope-intercept form. So let's write that same equation. I haven't written it down today yet. I wrote it down yesterday. Do you remember this one from yesterday? If you have your notes, you probably see it right in front of you. Or at least flip a page, you might see it. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph this. But I want to graph it using the slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. Okay? Remember yesterday, we graphed it yesterday, right? We did it. But how did we graph it? I found the x-intercept, I found the y-intercept, put the 2 points on there, connected the points, boom, I got my line. All right? This time I'm going to do it a little different. This time I'm going to find the slope, I'm going to find the y-intercept, then I'm going to put those 2 points on the graph, connect them, and I got my line. I'll get the same exact line as I got yesterday. All right, so if you want to compare your notes, you'll see that it looks exactly the same. Problem is, this does not look like this. Not yet, anyway. Does that look like that? Does this have y sitting here by itself? No, it doesn't. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to actually get what? Y by what? Itself. Very good. Okay, so we're going to get y by itself. Let's get rid of this. Let's just push it off to the side. Let's push it over here. We'll come back to that in a second. All right, so what I want to do is I want to solve for y. I think we've actually solved problems like this before, but if we haven't, I can't remember. I teach this stuff to so many different classes, I forget which group that I taught this to. But what I want to do is I'm going to get y by itself. Now, you got to stay awake. You got to watch. You got to write this down, okay? Everybody's got their head up? Nope. See two with their heads down. Get your heads up. Somebody get him. Tell him to get his head up. Tap him. Get your head up. Write this down. If you're writing down, it's hard to fall asleep. I mean, I've done it before. Have you ever done that? Doing homework or writing something and you're like, I've done that before, actually, at my desk, writing down. So I have fallen asleep writing, but it's a lot harder to fall asleep when you're writing something, okay? So write something down, and it'll keep you awake. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to solve for y. So I want to get y by itself. So what I want to do, see how the x is over here on the right-hand side? So what I'm going to do is take this 2x and put that over there on the right-hand side, okay? So how do I do that? What do I do to get not the 2, but the whole entire 2x? That's a positive 2x, isn't it? So how am I going to move that 2x to the other side? Okay, make it a negative or subtract it. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to subtract a 2x. Everybody with me? All right, because it's being added. I'm not just getting rid of the 2. If I was trying to just get rid of the 2, I'd probably divide it, right? But I'm not. I'm subtracting it. Okay, so I'm going to subtract a 2x from here. Now watch very carefully. Let's move this down a little bit. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to push this negative 6 over a little bit, right? I didn't move it to the other side. I just gave it some room. I'll show you why. So if I subtract a 2x from this side, I'm going to subtract a 2x from the other side. But I can't subtract a 2x from a 6 or a negative 6 because they're not like terms. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to slide it in right there. Why did I put it here? Why didn't I just make negative 6 minus 2x? Why didn't I do that? Because I want it to look like this. See how the x is before that number over here? So I'm going to slide that negative 2 in right after the equal sign. Write it down, okay? Then you can always go back and look at it and try to figure out what I did. At least write it down. So what happens here? I subtracted a 2x. That goes away. What's left over then? Negative 3y equals what? Negative 2x minus 6. Very good. Okay? It's probably the hardest step of the whole thing. That's the step that most people get confused about. But all I'm trying to do is move this 2x over here. It was a plus 2x, so if I move it to the other side, it's going to be a what? A minus 2x. Did you hear that explanation? That was pretty easy to understand, I think, right? I wanted to move it over here. Why did I want to move it over here? Because I wanted to make it look like this, and the x is over on the right-hand side of the equal sign. That's why I wanted to move it over here. And I want to get y by itself. Yes? I think I'm explaining it very well. Okay, to tell you the truth. I'll brag a little. All right, so let's see what else we can do. We still don't have y by itself. What do I have to get rid of? Well, it's not a 3. What is it? It's a negative 3. So I have to get rid of the negative 3. The negative 3 is being multiplied by the y. How do I get rid of something that's being multiplied? I divide it. So I divide it by a negative 3. Now look over here. I have to divide everything on the right-hand side by the negative 3. Not just the 6, but I have to divide this by a negative 3, and I got to come over here and divide this by a negative 3. That's really important that you do that. Multiply everything over the right-hand side, divide everything by a negative 3. Write it down. Even if you don't understand what I'm saying, write it down. At least you got it in front of you. You can always go back and study it and try to figure out why I did what I did. What happens to these negative 3's right here? They do what? Cancel out. So I've got y equals, now look at this. It's a negative divided by a negative. We learned this a while back. What's negative divided by negative? It's positive, okay? And so what I'm going to do is write it like this. I'm going to write 2 over 3. See the 2 over 3? I'm just going to put the x out in front. That's the same exact thing as 2x over 3. So 2 times x over 3 is the same as 2/3 x. All right? Again, if you're not really sure what I'm doing, why that's what it is, at least write it down. I got some people that are still asleep, their heads are up, but they're asleep, and they're not writing stuff down. Most people are writing, but there's a couple. I see 2. I could call you out, but I'm not going to. You know who you are. All right, let's do this. I got a negative 6 divided by negative 3. So we should know what that is. What's negative 6 divided by negative 3? Well, it's positive, first of all, right? So what do I put here as my sign? Put a plus, right, in addition. And then 6 over 3 is 2. Now, it seemed like a lot of work, but once we get it into slope-intercept form, this is why this form is so popular, okay, that people use it all the time, because it's really, really easy to graph once you get it into this form. So once you get it into this y equals mx plus b, it's very, very easy to graph. Really is, I promise. So let's graph this thing. Well, first of all, let's talk about it for a second. It's got 2 things. It's got 2 numbers in there, and I should know what both of those numbers do. What is this 2/3? What is that? That's my what? It's y equals mx. Come on, guys. Come on. Think. It's the slope. Very good. This is the slope because this is where the m would go. Agreed? So this is where the m is, so that's my slope. That's going to help me, if I could write an m correctly. Okay, that's going to help me graph. All right, I'm just going to label it right now just so you know what everything is. So that's my slope. What is the 2? What is the plus 2? That's my what? The y what? Intercept. Very good. That's the y-intercept. Once you know those 2 points, it's really, really easy to graph. I'll prove it to you. Let me come over here and grab this graph paper graph, just so we can be really accurate. Okay? Let's put it here. Let's make it just a little bit bigger so we can see. That's probably good. See that pretty good, right? All right, so let's do this in a different color just so it pops out a little bit. We'll put it in red. All right, here's what we're going to do. This is the first time, at least in here, okay, you might have learned this in Algebra 1, but this is the first time in here we've learned how to graph with a y equals mx plus b. And I promise it's very, very easy. But still, I teach college algebra. We are doing this right now, or we just finished doing it. I just took a quiz on it. You wouldn't believe how many people couldn't graph. And we went over it and over it, gave them worksheets, did all this stuff, okay? I mean, we went over it a lot. And they're 12th graders, right, that should know how to do this. They took Algebra 2 last year. This is absolutely a huge part of Algebra 2. And they should be able to do it. But even after my great teaching, they still couldn't figure it out. So let's show them, all right, that we as 10th graders, or you as 10th graders, can graph this stuff. The first thing you do is you start at the y-intercept, all right? So the y-intercept is 2. What does that mean to this graph? Where do I put a dot? On the y-axis, where? At the positive 2. At the positive 2. Everybody see that? So this is the y-axis right there. So I start here. Where is positive 2? It's right there. So you just put a dot there. Everybody with me? Okay. What is this? This 2 over 3. That's the what? The slope. What did we say the slope is? It's the what over what? The rise over the run. That's very, very helpful. So watch. What I do is I don't start at the origin again. I start at the y-intercept. That's really important to understand. Everybody hear me? So I put my y-intercept first. So I do this first. Okay, so I put it right here. Now I can do the slope. The slope is 2 over 3. So I start at the y-intercept and I rise, then I run. So which direction, how far do I rise? I go up 2. That's right. So count up 2. 1, 2. Don't put a dot just yet because I still have to do what? I still got to run 3. So what that means I go which direction? To the right 3 places. 1, 2, 3. Put a dot. That's all you need, or 2 points, right? And now I've got a line. So now I just connect them like this. Don't just start and stop at your 2 points. Have it go through the graph. Just looks a lot nicer. I'm not going to be picky if you put arrows or not, but I will since it's our first one. So that's a line. So that line right there is the same exact line as what we did yesterday. Does anybody have their notes from yesterday? What was the x-intercept yesterday? Do you remember what the x-intercept was yesterday? Look at your notes. Or you could look at this graph and take a wild guess. What was the x-intercept yesterday? Wasn't 0. Look at your notes. Who took notes yesterday? We wrote down the x-intercept. What's the x-intercept? Somebody look at it. What is it? -3, right. -3, right there. And look, it does hit at -3 on the x-intercept, doesn't it? On the x-axis. Yeah? I didn't plot that. I didn't use that to graph, but it definitely is the same exact line. What was the y-intercept yesterday? It was 2, wasn't it? So look, there's -3, there's 2, connected them. It's the same exact line, all right? We just got there 2 different ways. Does that make any sense? Yeah, maybe? All right. So I'm going to give you an example to do, and I'll give you a few minutes to work on it, okay? So let's see if you really did understand what I was saying. So here we go. I want you to graph, and I want you to do this using the slope-intercept form, okay? So you got to solve for y. Once you do that, then you can graph it. All right, there you go. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes, okay? Give you about 3 minutes to work on this. So first thing we're going to do is get y by itself. Look at the steps that you were supposed to write down in your notes that we just did on that last example and follow those steps, and it's pretty much the same type of problem. I think they're different numbers, aren't they? Yeah, they are. Okay. So it's pretty much the same exact thing we did yesterday, just we got different numbers in there. Or that's it, okay? Or today, I'm sorry. The same exact thing that we did today. The numbers are just a little different. So again, you should be getting y by itself. I'll give you 30 more seconds to get y by itself, okay? And then I'll let you graph it. So get y by itself. Because I don't want you to graph it if you didn't get the y thing correct. If you're not writing this down, you're not doing enough, okay? Don't even think about getting this right on a quiz or a test, all right? There's no reason that you're going to get it right if you're not trying right now. So if you want to get this right on a quiz or a test, I would be trying this right now. Still didn't make a difference for a couple of you. Don't know what I can do. All right, 30 seconds is way up. All right, so here we go. This is what we're going to do. We want to get y by itself. So what do I want to move over to the other side? The 3x. So watch. I could put minus 3x, but I know I'm going to get rid of it. I know it's going to cancel out. So I'm going to save myself just a little bit of effort and just do this. Okay, I know that's going to cancel out. So what am I left with over here then? A 4y. Now, I took this 3x and I moved it to the other side. It was a plus 3x, so what's it going to be when I put it to the other side? A negative 3x. So that wasn't too hard, was it? Once you get used to doing that. And then what do I have left over here on the right? That minus 4. Good. Okay. One more step, and I've got y equals mx plus b. What is that? Divide by 4. Divide this by 4. Divide this by 4. This time I'm dividing by a positive 4. Last example, I divide by negative something, right? So what happens here? That's a y. Now, how could I write this instead of the x on the top, just as a fraction? Just write it as negative 3/4. And then put a what? An x right next to it. Put it in the middle. Don't put it down the bottom. All right? It wouldn't be the same thing. Put it right in the middle. And then what's this going to be? It's going to be a minus, right? Because a negative and a positive, when I divide, is a minus. What's 4 over 4? It's just a 1. So this is what I'm going to graph. All right, I'll put in a little box just to... That was the hard work. Graphing, it's actually very, very easy. All right. Putting it into slope-intercept form is definitely the work. Let's move this right here. Okay. Now, the graphing part should be easy. Have you graphed it yet? Okay, I'll give you a minute. Ready, go. So if you didn't get this right, at least write this down and at least try to graph this thing right here. This is slightly different than what we did earlier, slightly. Give you 30 more seconds. Should be quick and easy. You probably could have done that in like 10 seconds. But there is one little part of it that's a little bit tricky if you haven't done these before. All right, that's good enough. That's close to a minute anyway. All right. What's the first thing we're going to do to my graph? What's the first point I'm going to put on there? The negative 1. The negative 1. That's my what? Y-intercept, okay? That's my y-intercept. That's the first thing I'm going to do. This is my y-axis, so I'm going to go to negative 1 on the y-axis, which is right here. Just put a little dot right there. I need a second point, though, don't I? All right? And I get that by the slope. This is my slope right there. Now, watch very carefully. I put negative 3 over positive 4, which is perfectly fine. Or I could write it like this. Watch. 3 over negative 4. It's the same exact thing. Because what's a negative divided by a positive? It's a negative. What's a positive divided by a negative? It's still a negative, right? So it's still negative 3/4 x. Let's use the first one, okay? So where do we start? Do I go back to the origin? No. I go to the y-intercept where I put that first point. And now, what do I have to do? I have to rise and run. Say it, Maya. Go down 3. That's good. Go negative 3. That means I go down. So I start at the y-intercept, and I go down 3. 1, 2, 3. Don't put a point just yet. Okay, I still have to do a run. How far do I run? In which direction? To the right, because it's a positive 4. It's a negative 3 and a positive 4. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Put it right there. I could connect the line, right, or connect the dots, and I've got my line. What if I wanted to do the slope like this? Would that still give me the same exact line? Well, let's see. Instead of going down 3 and to the right 4, what could I do? I could go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and do what? To the left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. Does it look like it still lies on that same line? Absolutely, okay? So watch. I can connect them. Again, make sure it goes all the way through. Don't just start and stop at the points. Yeah, because it's the same exact line, right? You see that? I could have gone up and to the left, or I could have gone down and to the right. It doesn't matter. It's still, both of those points lie on that line, and I'm going to get the same exact line. Right? We'll put arrows on the end since it is a line. It's not a line segment. And that's what your graph is. That's how you graph. What do you think? You think graphing is pretty easy? The graphing part's easy, I think. Let's do another one just for fun. I'll just make one up. Okay? And I'm not going to make you do that whole solve for y thing. All right? So let's do like 2 of them. What if I said this? Y equals 2x minus 4. Graph that one. Give you 30 seconds this time. Ready? Go. It's minus 4.
Teacher, sorry for interruption. Israel Davis from office, please. Thank you.
All right, this is a little bit different than what we've done because look at the slope. The slope's not a fraction this time, is it? But you can make it a fraction. What would you do, Maya? Put over a 1, right? Okay. Isn't 2 the same as 2 over 1? So now I have a rise, now I have a run. Everybody see that? You got to have the 1 there, all right, because you have to run 1. You can't just rise 2 and then that's it. You have to run, right? And it's not running 0, it's running what? 1. All right, so that's why I picked a whole number here, all right, because it may not be so easy to see. All right, so what's the first thing we're going to plot? The negative 4. So I go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot. And what's the slope? 2 over 1, correct? So what do? Go up 2, 1, 2, and go to the right 1. Put a dot right there. What do I do with them? Connect the dots, right? So your parents ask you, what'd you do in math class today? Oh, we just connected the dots. That's all we did. And there's your line right there. It's pretty easy, isn't it? Yeah. Let's do another one. Let's do a different color. Let's go blue. Let me see. What can I do? Okay, let's do this. Let's go y equals negative 1/3 plus 5. There you go. Oops, 1/3 x. Forgot the x. That's important. There you go. 30 seconds. Go. Y equals negative 1/3 x plus 5. They're always screaming over there. I don't know what goes on. Anybody done? Just a matter of putting a couple points, right? Counting. You don't have to add. You don't have to subtract. All you got to do is put points. You got to count a couple times, and that's it. So what's the first thing we're going to plot here? The 5, the y-intercept. So we go on the y-axis to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there. And the slope is negative 1/3, right? So I could do this. I could rise negative 1, run positive 3. Or I could do what? Rise positive 1, but run what? Negative 3. I could do either one of those. It doesn't matter. All right? Let's just do this one for right now. Where do I start, though? At the origin? Nope. Start at the y-intercept. All right, that first point. So I'm going to run negative 1, I'm going to rise negative 1, which I do what? Go down 1, and then where? To the right 3. 1, 2, 3. Or if I wanted to, I could do what? I could start at this y-intercept and do what? Rise positive 1 and run negative 3 right there. Do they all line up to make a line? Yeah, absolutely. So I just do that just to show you it doesn't matter. Let's do this. Let's start from here. All right, so that goes like this. And it's nice if you have like a little ruler with you. You carry a book bag, right? Or if you don't have a ruler, what I would do is just take a piece of paper, fold it in half, right? Maybe fold it 2 times. And you get a nice little straight edge right there. It helps you get a nice straight line instead of having crazy wiggly lines, right? So what do you think? Graphing y equals mx plus b is not very difficult, is it? It's pretty simple. Okay, I think it's pretty simple. All right. I can't think of any other situations that would be more difficult. Now, I've always made that y-intercept on all these problems like a whole number, right? I didn't make it like 2/3 because, like, how would you know where 2/3 is? You know what I mean? You kind of have to guess. In real life, the y-intercept could be like a fraction or a decimal or something like that. But for high school math, when we're first learning this, they almost always make the y-intercept a nice, it's not necessarily a whole number. It could be an integer, right? Because it could be negative because negatives aren't whole numbers. But anyway, they usually try to make it come out real nice and easy for you. They're not going to give you anything crazy, right? They're not going to give you like 0.0732 or something dumb like that, all right? In real life, though, that stuff happens. But we're not doing real life now. We're just preparing. We're just laying a groundwork. Just so later on when you take upper level math classes, then you just have a little foundation. That's all we're doing here, okay? So let's do another example. This one's a little different. I'm not even going to graph it, all right, because this one actually comes out to a decimal or a fraction with the y-intercept. But here is an example. We'll just stay with blue. That looks nice. My favorite color anyway. So anyway, example 3. It says write an equation of a line. So let's write that down. Write an equation of a line. Now, when I ask you to write an equation of a line, if I don't specify, you're always going to write it y equals mx plus b. Everybody hear that? When I ask you to write an equation of a line, unless I tell you different, you're always going to write it in the form y equals mx plus b, so slope-intercept form. All right, this looks a lot different than what we've been doing, but it's got some similarities. Okay, so it says write an equation of a line. So what's my answer going to look like? It's going to look generally like what? Y what? Equals mx plus b. So what do I need to do? I need to figure out what the m is, and I got to figure out what the b is. But check it out. I already know half of it. What do I already know? I already know the m. I already know the slope. So I could put that in right there. So check this out. So y equals m, right, which is negative 1/2. They already told me that. X plus b. Is that enough, though? No, what don't I know that I need to know? Well, I need to know the b, right, to get my final equation, right? I need the m and I need the b. Problem is, I got 3 things here I don't know. But I actually have 2 things that they tell me. What else did they tell me? That this line goes through this point, negative 5, 6. So if I was to graph it and put negative 5, 6, my line is going to go through that point, okay? And it's going to have a slope of negative 1/2. So I'm going to go to negative 5, 6. I'm going to rise 1. I'm going to run 2, okay? So you could visually see what's going on. But what is the equation of that line? Well, the negative 5 is a what? Is an x. The 6 is a what? What do I have here and here? I got an x and a y. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take that negative 5 and substitute it in for what? X. Very good. All right. This is an x, correct? This is an x. What this x and y represents on the equation of a line is any point on that line. Do they give me a point on that line? Sure they do. They give me negative 5, 6. So I'm going to take the negative 5, I'm going to put it in for x, and then I'm going to take the 6 and put it in for what? For y. And then I only have one thing to solve for. What would that be? It would be b. All right? So let's do it. So what am I going to put in for that y? 6. Keep that negative 1/2 right there. What is that 1/2 doing to the x? It's multiplying. So times my x. What's my x? It's negative 5. So I'm going to put it over 1 because I'm multiplying it by a fraction. Just makes it look a little nicer that way, okay? Plus what? B. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to solve for b now. Everybody see that? The m part was easy, right? Because they already told you what the m was, what the slope was. The x and y part was a little bit tricky, but now that I explained to you that the x goes in for x and the y goes in for y, that should be pretty easy to see as well, okay? Put it in for here. And now I want to solve for b. So what am I going to do? Let's do something with that fraction. Okay, the fractions always cause us problems, right? So let's try to simplify that. So we'll just keep that 6 right there. What's a negative times a negative? Positive. Okay, so if you want, you can just do that. Now, how do I multiply? Multiplying fractions isn't that hard. How do I multiply 1/2 times 5 over 1?
The 1 times 5.
That's it. The 1 times 5 and the 2 times 1. Just multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. So watch. You guys are losing me. So this is going to be 5 over what? 2 plus b. Now the next part's probably the hardest part of this whole entire problem. Okay, it's because people don't like to deal with fractions. All right, you're going to have to deal with fractions in this case. So 5/2. How do I get rid of that 5/2? Time's running out, so I'll do it for you. You subtract 5/2. If it was like a 3, what would you do? You'd subtract a 3, wouldn't you? But it's not. It's a 5/2. So you have to subtract a 5 over 2. And then what are you going to have to do over here? Subtract a 5 over 2 over here. What's the problem, though? I can't just subtract it like this. What do I need when I subtract or add fractions? I need a common what? Denominator. What would my common denominator be with 1 and 2? It would be a 2. All right? Time's running out. I'm just going to show you how to do it. So 1 times 2, 6 times 2 is 12. Would you agree that 12 over 2 is the same thing as 6? Why did I make it 12 over 2? So I could subtract these. So what's 12 over 2 minus 5 over 2? That's 7 over 2. And that's equal to b. Let's put it all together. So watch. Y equals, what was my slope on this? Was it negative 1/2? Yeah. And then you put an x. Now, what was my y-intercept? 7 over 2. That right there is my answer. Okay? All right. You have an assignment. I forget what it is off the top of my head, but it is in your lesson plan. It's 1 to 19. Okay? So it's 1 to 19. So do those. Have them ready. We probably won't have class tomorrow, but we'll have class on Monday. So have it for Monday. So 1 to 19. And that's section 3, whatever it is, 5. Section 3, 5, 1 to 19.
Did you want to start homework on Monday?
On Monday?
That was due to
No, I did not. We just reviewed for a quiz on Monday. This is the only homework I think I've assigned all week. Yep. No worksheets. I said this is the only thing that I've assigned all week. No, I said this is the only thing I've assigned, and that's from the book. It's section 3.5, 1 to 19. It's the only thing I've assigned all week. All right.